Ready to start your journey? Whether it's your first workout or you are a seasoned athlete, Endurance for Everyone Coaching wants to work with you. Our coaching team has worked with athletes from beginners to USAT national qualifiers and are comprised of experienced runners, cyclists, and triathletes who have a passion for healthy living and have been where you are. We offer comprehensive coaching programs from weekly support to basic consultation, all designed to help you achieve your goals. If you want to take your performance to the next level, look no further than Endurance for Everyone Coaching. Go to www.teamE4E.com and click on the coaching link or send an email to teamE4E@enduranceforeveryone.com. And let's get started.
Welcome to this week's Endurance for Everyone podcast.
The following program is for entertainment purposes only. Though the hosts of this show are certified Ironman coaches, their attempts at long course triathlons and endurance events should not be taken as an endorsement for you to do something stupid too. You should make your own bad decisions, then podcast about it. Now, let's start the show.
Hey, this is John Harris.
And this is Rob Bozovich.
And Endurance is for Everyone, and this is the Endurance for Everyone podcast. Welcome to episode 159 of the Endurance for Everyone podcast. It's going to be a running-based show tonight, Rob, right?
Yes, sir.
And we have a guest tonight, and why don't you go ahead and introduce that guest?
Let's see. I don't think I could do her justice with an intro. I just want to say that we have the elusive, the illustrative, the amazing Serena Scott Thomas on with us this evening.
I don't think I've ever had that intro before.
Do I need to get my thesaurus out? Did I use one of those words correctly?
I think you made up a word, illustrative.
I know that was made up, but I wasn't going to call him on that.
That was quite good, though. I quite like it. I am a word nerd. I get dictionary.com word of the day every day, and I'm obsessed with words with friends. Obsessed.
Oh wow.
Trivia.
Yeah, I thought I said illustrious, and I don't even know if that's a word. Or the actual, if you had to pay me for the definition.
Anyway, it was very good. I liked it.
All right.
You know, the word of the day tomorrow is going to be illustrative.
Yes, exactly.
I think we.
Anyway, where were we before I so rudely interrupted you?
Oh, we're used to it. So we're going to talk about running tonight. We're going to talk about a little about Serena's background and her past years as a coach. You're no longer a coach, right?
I am not a coach only because when I moved from marathons to ultras, I needed to be running with a group. When you're doing those kind of miles, as a woman, especially on the trails, you cannot go alone. And most people and my friends all do the long runs on the Saturdays. So my Saturdays, in addition to which I sell real estate, so Saturday afternoons are often taken with work. So my only opportunity for my long runs was Saturday morning. That was when most people wanted to have running lessons. So I had to stop.
Well, I went to we'll get into it more, but I actually went to a meeting with Danny Dreyer years ago.
Oh, did you?
In Orlando, yeah. So we'll get into that when we start talking about running. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting. But we'll start off with, I think we want to know like a little bit about your background. I think you have one of those names now, Serena, I know that name from somewhere, and. Oh.
You're saying my name.
That people are going to, but people are going to hear the name and say, I know that name from somewhere, even when they don't know Vinnie. But so why don't you give us a little bit about your background and where you came from and how you got into running and things like that.
Okay, well, I was absolutely the anti-athlete when I was a child at school. The only thing that I liked doing was riding horses, actually. That was my passion. But that was more an emotional thing than a desire to be physically active. But I did grow up in the countryside, and we did spend a lot of time. Our mother used to just like throw us out, and we'd go play in the fields and mess around and go for miles, and we rode bicycles everywhere. But athletics in school I hated, because it was always freezing cold. I grew up in England, and it was freezing cold, and I've got very bad eyesight. So I was absolute rubbish at anything that required, coordination of that sort.
Yeah.
Any lacrosse, field hockey, tennis, netball, rounders, which is our version of baseball. All those kind of things. I was just a joke. So I was not sporty. There was one time that I enjoyed athletics, and we had athletics. I want to say it was like 3 times a week. I know Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons it was what we called it field.
Oh, okay.
And that's what it was. No lessons. It was all out, sort of outdoor activities. But there was one time I did enjoy myself where the coach actually gave me a compliment. And that was when they made us do what was then considered to be a long distance run, which was all the way around the property belonging to the school. And I actually found that I really enjoyed that long distance run. But that was, it wasn't long distance at all, but it wasn't a sprint on a track. And it was funny because that was the only time that I ever did it. I really enjoyed it, but it never occurred to me to ask about it or pursue it in any way. But no, I was a real bookworm and not sporty at all.
You kind of look like a bookworm, to be honest. Okay, I'm just joking.
Oh, no, I seriously was. I was very, very nerdy. And not nerdy and quite naughty, actually.
Yeah.
But I was definitely not sporty. I was the last person to be picked, always.
So you came up, and obviously you I don't even know how you got into acting, but
yeah. So I got into acting.
Was it through modeling first?
Yeah. I began modeling at 19 in Barcelona in Spain, and I began doing television commercials. And I actually had a very long modeling career. I modeled from 19 till about 28. But during my modeling career, I, of course, was obsessed with staying thin. And I went through various different periods of sort of furiously exercising. I was one of those that did those high impact aerobics in the 1980s, complete with leg warmers and,
Jane Fonda style. Yeah.
Yeah, totally, completely obsessed.
Yeah.
It was always, stay as thin as you possibly can. But running, so through that, I did a lot of commercials, and I was working with a commercial director who was actually a film director, and he was like, "Serena, what are you doing?" Because I hated modeling because it was so boring. And you really have what it takes to be an actress. You should just do it. And I had various different reasons for not wanting to. I was very afraid of it. And particularly as I have a sister who's a very well-known actress and who had been born wanting to be an actress.
Yeah.
So I sort of like an imposter, But nonetheless, that's where my life took me. And, I would run occasionally on the treadmill in the gym if I was trying to burn calories, because that was back in the day when one tried to burn calories. And I don't know if you talk about that at all, but of course, Vinnie is, does not believe in burning calories for the sake of burning calories. It doesn't work. We all know that.
Right.
But I would try the treadmill, but I never ran on the street. I never ran outside. I just didn't like it, And then one day, how did I get into it? Oh, I was starting to run I was running on the treadmill that's right. I was running on the treadmill at the gym, and this girl came up and jumped on the treadmill next to me. And she's one of those girls that doesn't have an ounce of fat on her. She's one of my best friends today. I adore the woman. And she had this sort of cute little outfit on. And she was like perfectly made up and, sort of perfect hair, perfect everything. And she was running about twice as fast as I was.
Uh-huh.
And, I looked at her and I was like, you bitch. It's like, you're gorgeous and perfectly thin.
Yeah, hate her already.
So I was already hating on her. And at the end, I stopped and she stopped and she looked at me and she said, "You're a really good runner. Do you ever run outside?" I said, "No." And she says, "Do you want to come with me one day?" And I said, "Okay." And that's how I started running outside. And Meryl, her name was, she took me running. And one day, and I would just follow her anywhere. And one day we went for a run and then she said, "I'm going to meet a friend of mine. I promised I'd do this little race with her. She's just got divorced and I want to help her, with her new life." And I said I'd go and walk this race with her. "Do you want to come and take part in the race?" I'm like, "Okay." So,
You're just going to do anything, right?
Yeah, so off I went.
So even you follow the pretty girls around. Whatever they do, you do. Got it. Okay.
Listen, if you met Meryl, you'd follow her too. She is the most delightful human being. And I haven't seen her for ages, and I'm going to call her as soon as we hang up. But anyway, so I ran my first race and loved it. And she was the one who said, "You should start racing. You should start, doing." She'd done Boston and everything. I thought, "Oh, Boston, I'll never do that. It's terrifying." So thus it began. And I signed up for my first half marathon with a girlfriend. It was the Disneyland half marathon.
No, Disneyland.
And is it Disneyland or Disney? Disney World's in Florida, isn't it? Yeah,
yes, that's by me. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, John's in Florida, and you're out by the other one. So I'm up in Pennsylvania. We got nothing. I got Kennywood. Nobody knows what that is. So we'll just move past that.
Missing anything.
Farms. They got farms.
Half marathon was great. And from there, I started training. I decided I was going to sign up for I think I signed up for the LA Marathon. And I was put on this program by this physical therapist who basically sold programs and training programs and would charge your insurance for them as a complete scam.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
that's what I need to do. I haven't figured that out yet.
John, you just found your $1
I
million.
just found it out.
Yeah, so you have an injury, you go to see them, and then they put you on this schedule, for training for this, that, or the other, and they make claims on your insurance for every workout that you go and do there and every training program that you buy. It's quite clever. Yeah. But anyway, I got injured doing their program. And that was just when I met Vinnie. And I showed Vinnie this training program, and the top of his head almost blew off.
I can imagine, yeah.
He was
seems like such a calm, well-mannered guy.
He's
I don't
calm.
see that.
I started cycling with Vinnie because I was injured. I had an Achilles thing going on. And at the same time, but my real love was running. I was desperate to do this thing of, run this real marathon, full marathon. And I couldn't because I was, laid up from running. So I started cycling with him. And again, I would follow him anywhere. Like my first bicycle ride was, I think, 30 or 40 miles.
He's another pretty girl, so you follow him.
And I think the second one was like 60 and the third one was like 80. And
there you go. Yeah.
And he'd just go, I'd say, "I'm really tired." And he'd go, "Oh, well, let's just go this way. It's a little bit further." But I go, "Okay."
Okay. All right, Vinny.
I mean, I was like so stupid. But anyway, whatever. He has a cute ass and it's pretty
That's
cute.
what I was going to say. You'd follow that anywhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. And good legs. Anyway, love is blind and stupid. And anyway, after a while, Vinnie at the time, it was when that book Born to Run came out, and Vinnie was reading it. And I had found in the bookstore, because one used to go to bookstores in those days and buy real books.
I still do.
Actually, I think I'd read about it. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
I think I'd read about it in a running magazine, this Chi Running. I'd seen a little thing about it, an ad or something. And so I went to the bookstore and I found the book. And it said, "Learn to Run Injury-Free." I thought, aha, might be onto something. Maybe I'll be able to start running again. So I was reading Chi Running and he was reading Born to Run. And I remember we were lying in bed together and we were both reading. And he was reading me excerpts of Born to Run, and I was reading him excerpts of of chi running, and they were the same.
Right.
It was the same thing, with talking about form and having certain amount of steps per minute, and
Right.
leaning forward and using gravity and not wearing clunky shoes and all the rest of it. So I thought, well, if they're both saying this, there must be something to this. So I'm going to sign up for my first marathon, and I did. And that's how I got into running, really.
So, and like you brought up, so eventually through the chi running, you became an actual coach for chi running, right?
The chi running, so I read the book, and I would try and do the and try and, practice, doing it, but it's incredibly difficult by yourself.
It is, yeah.
So I signed up for a day's course. After I ran the marathon, I signed up for a day's course, and I had a sore knee now. So I'd gone from Achilles to now my knee. But I did this 1-day course, and it was great. A guy called Steve Mackle, who runs a big group here of runners called Soul Runners, I think.
Okay.
He's a good coach for anyone in the area who's looking. Anyway, that was great, and then I had a couple of privates with him, and that was great. But I still felt like I wasn't getting it, and I really wanted to get it. It sounded, it jibed very much with my kind of feeling that running was and is very much a meditation for me. So it wasn't just the physical aspect, but it was also the spiritual aspect of running, and mindful running, and being in my body. And I was like, well, what's the longest course I can do? And I started searching around, and I found that the longest course I could do was the instructor training, which took place in Asheville, North Carolina. And I thought, well, I'm going to do that. I don't want to be a teacher, but, it's 5 days of intense training. It's 3 months of study before you even get there, and then a whole bunch of study afterwards. I'm going to go do it. And so off I trotted. And I discovered while I was there, because you had to kind of practice on each other, that I really love teaching. Coming from an acting, modeling background, which is, in my case, profoundly narcissistic in every way, there was this extraordinary discovery that there's a teacher in me. I had no idea. And that I really loved seeing people get it, and seeing people suddenly go, oh my God, I can run.
The look on their face when they realize, it's not supposed to hurt.
It was amazing. And so I started teaching it, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. It helped me to keep me in the practice as well, because it is a practice. You do have to practice, like yoga or meditation or any other muscle needs to be worked,
Well, I was saying at the beginning is that I went to an actual, it was a half-day program with Danny Dreyer, who wrote Chi Running. He did it in Orlando. This was, maybe 7 years ago. And I just remember that first time when he did it inside a gym for a long time. Then he took us all outside. There's maybe about 60, 70 of us. And
wow.
Yeah, it was a pretty good group. And I just remember the first time, like, kind of, he makes you kind of run in place. And then he kind of lean forward and you say, hey, we're moving. And reminds me of Bill Murray and Stripes, hey, we're marching. But I remember like going through that and realizing, wow, this doesn't hurt, and I can move. And before that, I was like struggling. I was still as well before I even discovered Galloway and that method and stuff.
Right, which is fantastic.
Yeah, right. And then I remember going out to a place called Flatwoods, and I actually using the little beeper to keep my pace on. I ran 7 miles straight, and I had never done that before since the military. Wow. So I was just, wow.
If I can interject and ask you guys one thing here. Serena is a coach, John, and you said the beeper. I've read the book. I've not been to the to a class. Is that something that you get for the class and they recommend to have, or I'm assuming it's a metronome or just a timer beeper. What exactly is it? And is it like does it actually help?
You don't need it when you go to the class. The idea is that there's an optimal number of steps that one should take per minute. That minimizes the stress, the load-bearing phase, if you like, of the stride. So then if you take more steps per minute, shorter strides and quicker strides, the length of time that your ankle, your foot, and your lower leg is bearing the weight and is flexing like that is shortened, right. And it creates the result of it is less impact on landing, so less wear and tear.
Yeah, I likened it a lot to again back in the military when you're marching and you're doing long runs in the military. They kind of have you doing it at a cadence, and you see the movies like Full Metal Jacket where they're running and they're singing, and it's almost the same type of thing. And when I was doing this, you hear me?
Hello.
Hello,
Serena, can you hear us?
No, I lost you for a second. I'm so sorry. I don't know what that was. Sorry, you were running in the military, and they had you do it to a cadence.
Right, and you do it to a cadence, and that's when I was doing it at this meet. That's what it felt like to me. It's like, I'm starting to sing in my head these old cadences in my head.
You know what? The aerobics classes I used to go to in the 80s, we used to chant in time to our steps, and it was a what do they call that? Something, and when the leader calls out and everybody answers. What do they call that? The term for that is escaping me, but he would go way oh, and go way oh, and it was so much fun because I tell you, I used to love to sing in choirs, and I always found that to be very therapeutic. And running in groups is very therapeutic. So if you're singing and running at the same time,
it's great. I know it makes a big difference.
Good. I don't know why.
Yeah. I think it almost like it takes your mind off what you're actually doing. It kind of like puts you in mind sync with everybody else. And
without a doubt. And I also actually curious as to whether you've heard of EMDR?
I have not.
I'm trying to remember it.
It's a therapy they use a lot for people who have post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's either a sound or a light that alternates left, right, left, right, left, right, and you follow it either with your eyes or your ears if you're listening, or sometimes they put little vibrating things in your hands and it goes bzz, 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 left, right, left, right.
Oh, okay.
And I asked the doctor, the therapist, why this works, and he says because it stimulates both sides of your brain and allows you to process trauma with the rational thinking part of your brain, and allows it kind of creates this sort of exhaust system whereby things get resolved differently in your mind, or you have you sort of exorcise them. And I said to him at that point, is that why running makes me feel better? And he said it's highly possible because it's a bilateral use of your body. You're going left, right, left, right, right, left, right. And I actually, don't you find that when you run, especially if you're by yourself, you go out and you solve all your problems while you're running?
Yeah, that's when I write my best blog ideas come when I'm running.
Right? Isn't that the most effective time?
Yeah,
because the brain processes things differently. And I swear to God, that's what it is. I'm sure that's what it is.
The problem is I forget about them by the time I get back.
Well, yes, that is true. But you know what the answer to that is? I've just realized. I recently purchased, because Vinnie took my Garmin when he was kayaking, and he dunked it in the river and in the ocean, and it's not supposed to break, but it did. And so he bought himself another one. And I no longer have a Garmin.
Oh, there you go.
So I bought myself an Apple Watch, but here's the thing I love about this, because I really thought I would hate it because it's one more gadget and it's so intrusive. It is brilliant for writing yourself notes. Brilliant.
Oh.
You press the button and say, remind me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And there it is, which you can totally do when you're running along. And it does your heart rate and your miles and everything else. So
yeah, I have a friend actually that uses her Apple Watch for swimming, and it works just like a Garmin does. I was kind of amazed.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll be scared to do that, but yeah. But anyway, so back to the joys of chi running and the use of the metronome. Yeah, I used to have one of those little clip-on ones. You get them on Amazon.
Yeah, I did too.
And, I used to like so people get very confused between tempo and rhythm. And I used to like the 1 2 3 1 2 3. So if you have the rhythm, it's kind of like a waltz. It's going 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. People go, well, that's not 1 2 1 2.
No.
Yes, it is. It's 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1.
Yes, right.
And I used to put it on that lovely waltzing rhythm, and I always found it to be very soothing.
Right, because you're hitting on your. I think I used a 1 2 3 also, and I hit on my right foot every 1 2 3 1 2.
Well, the reason why you want to do the 3 is because actually, one
goes to the opposite.
You tend to stress the downbeat. I think it is.
Yeah.
With your foot, you land heavier on the downbeat, and with the 1 2 3. That means you're alternating between the left and the right.
Right. Yeah, and it kind of throws your rhythm better.
Anyway,
so I need to play the athlete here and ask the two coaches, because I'm just dense and I'm not picking it up here. Is it right foot 1, left foot 2, right foot 3, or is it a different? Like, what do you when you guys are talking about the downbeat and so forth? Left
foot 3. No, just kidding.
Right, left, right, left, right.
There you go. Right, left, right. No, I can't. You're muddling.
1 2 3 1 2 3 1. So it'll be the one will be on your right foot, 1 2 3, and then the next one will be on your left.
Your left foot. Yeah.
So okay, so if it's a 1 2 3, it's right is left. Like a 1 2 3, and then so it's not like if I'm gonna hit my hands on the desk here, it's not 1 2 3 with footsteps. It's every other footstep is hitting on every third beat.
No.
It's every step. It's 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3.
Or
from the drummer,
right, left, right. However that works out.
It sounds as though when you first start doing it, it seems ridiculously fast.
It does, yeah.
But you have to remember that you're taking smaller strides.
Well, I was going to ask you, you both said that this falls into a optimal cadence. What would that cadence roughly equate to?
Between 175 and 180 beats per minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, and that's like, right. And that's both feet. So I always would go with 1 foot. So I'd always just try for 85 to 90 on each foot.
Yeah.
Which is about the same.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
What I did was I just found a whole bunch of songs that were pretty much that rhythm.
You know what works really well?
Yeah.
Green Day.
Which song?
A lot of them.
Oh yeah.
I put on Uno and Dos. Remember those 3 albums they put out? Every song on those albums match it.
Oh, all right.
It's weird. I know.
I like In the Club. 50 Cents. That's a great one. But I'm weird. I also like, there's one really good Simon and Garfunkel one. I can't remember which one it is.
Cecilia?
No. Oh, no. No, that's too fast. I can't remember which one it is, but, it's amazing the range of songs.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever I go on Spotify or any of those places, you can find, 175 cadence runs or 180 cadence runs. I hate the music because it's like.
Oh, my music.
I like to mix it up a lot,
Because I was going to say the band Disturbed is really good for that too. It falls right into there. Yeah.
But I tend to like the ones, the kind of waltzing rhythms. I don't know what you call those. The sort of swinging rhythms because they relax me more, Yeah,
it's a relaxing beat. 1 2 3 1. Yeah, it's kind of even the waltz itself, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm quite the dancer.
Yes, apparently.
All
You have the body of a dancer, John.
all Italians can dance. We don't need to be thin. It's in our blood.
Anyway, so big fan of the chi running, I must say, and I have stayed injury free. I mean, I've had tweaks here and there, little bits and things and pieces, but nothing that my fabulous physical therapist can't unravel.
Well, I found that the injuries I had is when I stopped. When I don't know why I stopped. I can't even tell you why, but lately I've been trying to go back to it and finding it a lot easier. Yeah. I don't know why you stop things like that. I don't know why. Because we feel like we're
in the way. I mean, I did a play earlier on this year, and that was working nights. And then I would get up in the morning later because I hadn't gone to sleep until 1 o'clock. And then I would have to go straight into my real estate duties. And the running went out the window. And Vinnie and I have been so busy with the documentary and everything, because you guys know about the documentary, right?
Oh, absolutely. We put money in and everything.
Oh, bless
You'll see us on the donor list.
Yeah, you'll see us on the donor list.
Thanks. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen the trailer?
I did.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday. Yeah.
Love it.
Came out
Yeah, we need everybody to go and look at that trailer, please. I'm begging now.
Well, we posted it. I posted it over on the group's Facebook page and stuff like that.
Thank
So
you. Yeah, because the more eyeballs on it, the better.
it looks like it's going to be great. I really can't wait to see it, honestly. But,
Yeah, I think it's going to be good. I'm very excited, and Vinny is, I think he's
yeah.
This has been brewing for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's very exciting.
Well, what I always said about Vinny was that I was assigned the podcast as a homework assignment back in 2010 by my coach. She told me
hilarious.
episode 13 was my first one. They were just getting started. And
that's amazing.
yeah, well, I remember my coach at that point, and then listening to him and Anna talking is like nobody else was talking. And every time I tried to talk to somebody about that stuff, I got crap. You're crazy. What are you talking about? Blah blah blah. You need carbs. All this. And it's just funny to see, like, here 7-8 years later, how it's become almost like what everybody talks about now.
Well, I mean, my running groups don't. I mean,
I will say that as like I fight it in the running groups that I'm in. I don't want to, because I love the group that I raise money with and everything. But yeah, talking to them about it is like talking to a brick wall. They still want a carb load. They still want to do. It's they don't want to hear it, and they actually get mad at me when I say something against it. So,
Well, I mean, you know what? I've become a little bit less sort of fanatical about it, because I really do believe that if something works for you, then stick with it.
Well, but I think
if clubbing works for them,
yeah,
well, I think it does. Great.
Well, my issue, and I'm not a fanatical about it by any stretch anymore either. But what my issue is that, yeah, they say, well, it works for me, I'm going to do it. But have you tried it? Have you even tried something else? So you think it works for you because that's all you've ever done.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, for me, the transition was very difficult.
Oh yeah. And the couple people I've talked into, like, giving it a shot the first 2 weeks, they're miserable.
Well, it took me more than I would say a year at least.
Oh, really? It took you a long time. It took me a few weeks, and I was fine after
comfortably
that.
Go.
Yeah.
It just psychologically, I think.
Yeah. Right. And it does take a while to get that stuff out of your system, and
yeah.
But yeah, and that's what I like I said, I'm not as fanatical about it as I was back then, because I think when anybody tries to become, when you figure out something new and you figure out it works, you just want to share it, and you can't believe anybody else can't see what you're seeing, so you become almost like a zealot for it. But and then it kind of wears off, you kind of come to grips with it. You say, well, you know what, they're going to do what they're going to do. I'm not going to worry about it anymore.
Exactly. Look, it's a problem if there's a weight problem, metabolic problem, or that they get sick in their stomach during races. That ruins their performance.
Right.
But other than that, I don't know.
Well, I mean, the biggest discussion, we'll call it a discussion, I had back then was one of the women running, she always had GI issues, always. It's like when she started to run, within 30 minutes, she was running for a bathroom or the woods or someplace.
Yeah.
And I just casually asked her, I said, well, how many of those goos have you eaten? And she's like, it's 30 minutes in, she's already eaten 3. I said, well, you think that might be the problem?
Well, that's what happened to me on my first half marathon. They told me to drink all this Powerade the night before, and Powerade with breakfast, Powerade before the race, and I mean, the race 2 hours. I think I ate 4 goos.
Yeah.
And I spent the next hour, I kid you not, on the loo.
Yeah.
And in agony.
But it's like, and I know I've heard Vinnie say things like this, but it's like you telling somebody to stop eating sugar is like you want to kill their mother. It's like they don't want to believe it. And it's like, it's the sugar. Stop eating the sugar.
Yeah.
And
it is interesting.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I mean, I actually use sugar strategically when I'm racing because I find it, because I don't use it when I'm training. When I take it during a race, it's like bloody rocket fuel.
Exactly right. And we've talked about that, haven't we, Rob? It's like,
we have that and caffeine as well.
Oh, caffeine,
right?
yeah.
Like those little shots of Coca-Cola they give you at the aid station.
Oh, my God.
It's like suddenly you're doing 8-minute miles.
It's like heaven. Well, a trail race I did here, they were given like little flat cups of Mountain Dew. And that was you know, it wakes you up.
The problem is you have to keep it going after that.
Exactly.
You know?
Well, it was a 15-mile. It was a 25K, so at a mile 10, so we had 5 miles left. So that's when I did it.
Exactly. It's all strategic. You have to be strategic about it, but it can be a good tool.
Oh, yeah.
You know. But yeah, so but now I very happily, go around the hills with a handful of cashews and a slug of olive oil,
Yes, that's right. See?
Bizarre, but delicious.
Yeah. Cashews work really well.
The olive oil, or the peely nuts. Have you had the peely nut?
No, what's that?
Oh my goodness.
Sean, you have not listened to Vinnie's show.
I haven't. What's a peely nut?
You get them on Vinnie's Amazon page.
Okay.
I think you go to amazon.com/Vinnie. He has like an influencer page there.
Yeah.
And they are very, very high in fat, akin to the macadamia nut, but sprouted and they're slivered very thinly and they melt in your mouth. They taste like butter. And they are a wonderful little infusion of fat and salt, when you need it. I find they go down much more easily than cashews, actually, for me personally.
I'll have to check this out. I'm actually bringing it up now to look at it. But
yeah, and they sell them. He sells them in those tiny little packs as well.
Oh, okay, good.
You just get like a handful, and I think I'm a firm believer. I don't like them to snack on. I only use them when I'm running.
You only use them, yeah.
I use them in cooking, actually. I grind them up and use them in recipes where that might have called for breadcrumbs or any kind of filler like that, like a meatballs or a meatloaf or a stuffed pepper or something like that. I'll use peely nuts.
Okay.
Because they get kind of a little sticky, rather like cashew nuts too, when you grind them up.
I'm going to check this out.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the peely nut for running. I can't remember the name of the guy. It's like I think it's huntergatherer.com or so. I don't know. I don't know where he gets some fat.
On Amazon, they are sold by Hunter Gatherer Natural Foods.
There
you go.
Directly from Vinnie's link. And, hey, audience, we did not intend this to turn into an infomercial, but when there's good information to be had, you got to go with it.
That's right.
Yeah, no, those things are really great, and the little packs are just the perfect size, and they're really nicely sealed up, and you can leave them in your pack, and you don't worry about, it works.
Yeah, I mean, and Rob, everybody's always asking for things they can eat on runs, so I think they'll be fine with it.
Well, so I didn't want to jump in and cut off what you guys were saying, but I was gonna just interject, and that is, I try to. So for Serena, I follow Vinnie, the no sugar, no grain, I don't want to say pretty strictly. I jumped on the bandwagon real hard early on, lost a lot of weight. Then I started when I say I know 80-20 is about what works for me, but my wife's interpretation of 80-20 is she tries to do 80% of every meal. That doesn't work for me. I need to have like the whole week be good and then maybe one meal on Saturday night. So over time, I gained a chunk of weight back. And John and I might talk about this on a show coming up. I've really refined and ratcheted down over, when I say the last year, a year ago we started talking about weight, and I'm down about an additional 28 pounds since Thanksgiving last year. Like I said, I did a marathon earlier in the year, signed up to do Chicago first weekend of October, Marine Corps last weekend of October, and then my first ultra first weekend of November.
Wait. You're doing.
I'm sorry?
You know where I'm going now, don't you?
Yeah. Go, do it.
You're doing a marathon at the beginning of October, a marathon at the beginning of November.
Yes.
And then
last weekend of October, and then 6 days later, an ultra.
Are you nuts?
A little bit.
This is his his coach not telling him no.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Coach and the wife neither say no, then you just do it. But that's where I was starting to go with it is a lot of my long runs lately, training differently, and that has been I've been following the Hanson's method, John, and we've been using it for the year, and it's a 6 day a week running, so a lot more, but the long run is only 16 miles, and so that's what this past Saturday, I can get out for a half marathon with no food, no nutrition, just water. But I've been trying different variations, like you were talking about taking nuts, and I obviously when I first started this 10 years ago, it was the whole read the books, take the goos, etc. I don't do that anymore. So now it's been Generation UCAN, super starch. It's been real foods, some before, some during, to see what I can tolerate, both for the marathon level, but obviously then the ultra is going to be a whole different beast. It's going to be a lot longer because it's a trail one. So,
but the ultras are easier, I think, because I haven't run a marathon since I went NSNG. By the way, not really.
Okay.
No, not. Maybe as I was transitioning, I was training for my last marathon, or one of the last ones I did. But yeah. Because when I did LA, I was NSNG, but I couldn't do it without goo. I was in the beginning when I was trying to transition over. When you do,
I was going to ask. Good.
When you do ultras, generally speaking, unless you're Pete Kostelnik, you're going a lot slower, and we walk a lot of the hills, so you have time to actually eat real food and digest it. Whereas when you're going like a bat out of hell and you're trying to PR to qualify for Boston, you're not going to stop and eat a peanut butter sandwich or that's a bad example, but salami and cheese. You're not going to stop and eat. The idea of eating cashew nuts when I'm running fast enough to run a marathon makes me want to throw up.
Right.
So I think you'll find it gets easier when you go to ultras. That's my experience.
Yeah, well, it's different. I mean, I started doing ultras a couple of years ago, right, Rob?
You've already done them. It's not your first. Oh, okay. Yeah. So
Yeah. I mean, I fell in love with not just ultras, but trail runs in general. Just seems so much easier on my old body than road running for sure.
Right. Which one of you is? I'm confused now. Which one of you is doing the 2 marathons of the ultra straight after?
That's Rob.
Rob. Okay. And Rob, is that your first ultra?
Yes,
it is.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. No, I know, John. You've done them before. You've done lots.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've done tons.
Well, I think Rob's going to do really well in it, actually. So, and not just speaking as his coach. I mean, I think he's built for it.
Yeah.
But
Well, it'd be interesting to see, how that feels, to do, because that means you're not tapering.
Mm-hmm. No. Quite the opposite, and part of what I was hoping to hear a little from you on was, and kind of when I say I'll even say shorter distances and longer distances, and talking about this chi running and get it was my greedy want to hear more about that from you, and that's because I'd read the book and I found that when I'm out on my longer runs, when I start getting tired, it's all about, I think, getting my form correct.
Yeah.
And a lot of what John would know, but also is since I only have, when I say only, so I guess I'll say I was signed up for Chicago, got into the lottery last year. Then through this year, I started thinking of ultras, and I found the ultra, and it's only 2 hours away from me. And that's why I thought, okay, it's a month later, it's a little longer, and like you're saying, it's a walk, run, etc. Okay, I think that's doable. I should already be in shape. The Marine Corps Marathon just came about within the last few weeks. My brother-in-law was signed up, was unable to do it, so put it out there and said, hey, does anybody want this? No one in the group picked up on it after a day or two. So I said, hey, I'll do it. And, because I've done it once before and I'd like to go do better. And like you said, I'm not really tapering. So Chicago is going to kind of be an A race effort. Marine Corps is going to be essentially, I'm going to try to do nothing but trails and like run, walk for a few weeks, then hit Marine Corps and do it as a training run almost.
Those Marine Corps ones, aren't they really difficult?
No, it's not extremely difficult. It can be very hot for that one.
Oh, okay. I mean, I guess it's no different really than doing, like when I'm in training for a long distance, doing, a 25 mile and then a, 28 mile and then a 30-mile run, 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah. It's about when I say, I guess, the intensity, and that's why I'm figuring Marine Corps is going to be, I'm not going to try to, like you said, I'm not trying to PR it. I know I'm not going to BQ in it, but it's more of a I don't want to say a last minute, but a last effort for any nutrition or run walk strategies to see what is truly working.
Yeah. And what's the ultra you're doing?
Fire on the Mountain in Maryland.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
We had the race director on, and I reached out to Vinnie on a few things, and I should say it this way because roughly knowing without saying details on it where your second home is located, I had said, hey, there's this one, and this one, and I said this one is early November. I think the chances are slim to none that you guys can come.
Isn't it? That's why I've seen that. Yeah. Because of course that's not far away.
No. Registration's still open.
Yeah, I'm so unfit right now. It's not even funny. I'm like,
if you want to do a relay, they have a 2-person option.
That's right.
There you go. Let's do that, John. There's no
another person trying to get me up there now.
Look, I was last year. Life got in the way, and then my poor mom got really ill, and I went back to visit her a couple of times. And while I was in England, and looking at these pictures, it makes me think of that. I signed up for a race. I signed up for a race. I was supposed to do a 50-miler when I came back, and I knew that I wasn't going to get the training in while I was in England. So I thought, hey, I might as well see if I can find a 50K here while I'm here and just go and do it, instead of the 50-miler. And I found this race. It was 47 miles. Odd distance. What I omitted to notice, and here's the funny part, was that it was self-navigating. It said, please bring a map and a compass. And I kind of just sort of glossed over that part. Needless to say, I did it. I actually did 53 miles.
Yeah, there you go. That's like the Barkley marathons,
But I was not trained for it at all. And so I learned my lesson, about
read it all, read everything.
Yeah, read it all, and because I said to myself, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? I know I could do a 50K right now, but 50 miles, I don't know if I really got it, and I'm pretty sure I didn't have it, And I said, well, I'll just walk. Well, let me tell you, that extra 20 miles, or in my case, 23 miles, it hurt. It hurt.
Yeah.
It was rough. But, it's like, as you get in one's career, I suppose, as a runner, you learn as you go along, don't you?
Yeah, right. You learn. And it's like I tell everybody that are starting marathons is that, especially people that have just done half marathons specifically, and they're trying their first marathon, is that when you get to 13.1, you're going to hit something. You're going to want to stop because your body's so used to just stopping at that point. And then it's going to hit you that you still have another one to do.
You can't think like that, can you? You know.
No, but even with the triathlons, I finished like a 70.3, and think to myself, God, could I just do that again right now? And no, I could not. It keeps you away from the 140s, you know.
Yeah, I know. The brain, you know, they say it's you know, it's 20% mental and the rest is in your head.
Yeah, there you go.
John,
but
check the math.
You can't help yourself with the form. And I have to say that I use a metronome a lot when I'm racing, and especially if I start running into trouble. And actually, somewhere Danny Dreyer has on one of his downloads, there is a metronome track. There are two. There's a 75. I mean, there's a 175 and a 180, and you can download that into whatever MP3 thing you use, and just have that pop into your music every now and again.
Okay.
And you know, just remembering to reach up to the sky with the crown of your head. And relax everything else.
And that was almost one of the hardest things for me, Serena, is that learning how to stretch my head up, because I run like a fat guy, you know, I run scrunched up, and learning how to like stand up up tall was hard for me.
But without doing the military thing,
right?
You know, without doing that, sticking your chest out and squeezing your shoulder blades together.
Right, it's very hard.
Yeah. I like to think of it as. And I practice this. I imagine, I think about the top of my head reaching up to the sky, right? Mm-hmm. And then I think about just at the base of my skull, there's a coat hanger. And my shoulders are the coat hanger, and my skin and all my muscles are the clothes that are hanging on the coat hanger, and they're just draped. Everything is draped over the coat hanger, really nice and relaxed, and just, you know, moving with the movement and just going along for the ride kind of thing. Yeah. And that really helps me relax my shoulders and breathe into my lower, you know, the lower part of my lungs, the lower part of my rib cage, breathe into there. And thinking of those things, because for sure, I get really klutzy when I'm tired as well. That's the other thing. And that's when you trip and fall, you know. So I find that it really helps with that as well. You know, if you can think of nothing else, just be tall, you know.
Yeah. And like I said, that was like the hardest mental thing for me. I think it's just, you know, if you've been in the military a long time like I was, it ingrains itself into you to do it a certain way. And, you know, and you can even see, you know, people that have been running and just, you want so bad to say, stop doing that, but you know, you can't. But
I know, I know. You know, you become, it's.
You want to reach out, please stop that.
Yeah, but, you got the running form police.
Yeah,
you know.
Exactly.
But you know what always amazes me is that, you know, we know all this and we try and practice it to the best of our ability, and none of us will ever be perfect.
Oh no, I think I look great out there, and then I see race pictures.
I know exactly.
It's like, oh my God.
Flailing around. And
what the hell is that? Why is my foot going in that direction?
No, completely. I know exactly what you mean. And then you see people who get these perfect running pictures.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. This is one.
What amazes me is how you see people, like there's many ultra athletes, highly successful, effective ultra athletes, horrible form.
Oh yeah. Flailing their arms.
I know, and how can you not get injured? Well, I don't know, but they do.
That's how I run.
Mind over matter.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. It's amazing. The human body is amazing. Absolutely amazing. But for me, the chi running has worked. It has worked.
And I think it works for most people if they really give it a shot and don't get, and like you said, it's very hard to learn on your own.
Yes,
you really have to have, you either go to a class or find someone who really knows what they're doing, not someone who just kind of knows what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, since I taught, I know that Danny, I'm not up to date in his latest teaching techniques and the things that he really emphasizes. So, I'm behind the 8 ball too. I mean, I strongly recommend that somebody, who's interested in this, go to one of Danny's workshops if you can.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get into one of his.
Yeah.
He doesn't travel around like that anymore. This was at the beginning, I think, so he was kind of doing a lot of them on his own. He's based out in North Carolina, isn't he?
Assist him. So when he had a lot of people, they would be divided up into groups. And each of us would assist him.
Yeah.
But he would basically, oversee and teach the whole thing. And then for the practicing, they would be, watched over by us. That's how I don't know what he's doing these days, but and I'm always grateful to him for, what he gave me, because I mean, it really has enabled me to do this at my ripe old age, never having been very athletic, without getting injured.
Well, he deserves a lot of credit for that, because he does. The people that I know for me, for one, is like, it taught me a whole different way of running. I mean, I'm not perfect at it still, and weight's always the issue, but even as a big guy, it helps me run where I'm not hurting all the time.
Yeah, it's fantastic. What a gift.
Yeah. So, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. I mean, there's others that teach kind of the same method, but his stuff is really good. But I've read through his book and stuff like Rob has, and it's really hard you have to have somebody watching you to make sure you're doing it.
Now, I think there's an app too, and that is lessons as you're running along, which is pretty fabulous.
Yeah.
I used to have that on my phone. I got a new phone and I don't have it anymore, but you know how that goes.
Yeah.
But that was very effective as well. And I do find that using practicing the chi running, I do tend to finish most of my races in pretty good shape, with a smile face, most of them, which has been really nice. I've really enjoyed them. I had a good time.
Well, that was the big difference for me as well, is that there were races that I finished, especially the first marathon I did, that it was almost 2 weeks before I could walk right.
I know, right?
And the big, it's like, oh my God, it hurt so bad. And
that's how you're doing it right, I thought. Right? Leave it all on the field, John.
All 7 hours of it.
But when you do NSNG, that really helps as well, because the inflammation is practically zero.
Right. And I have, and you don't know my history, but I have, I had thyroid cancer, which makes you inflame, and I have psoriatic arthritis due to that, which is inflammation. Ouch. So I inflame at the very slightest provocation.
Oh, you poor thing.
So I just did a 10-mile run Saturday, and my hands, I couldn't close my hands.
Really?
So even with that, I mean, that's how quick it does it.
Wow.
But
for you.
Well, it's better than sitting on the couch and getting old. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
So
yeah.
So Rob, what else would you like to talk about before we're getting up to an hour now, so.
Me?
She is more than appropriately told me that I'm doing everything right and keeping awesome. So.
That's what I heard.
No, it's just funny. Without digging into a few things, and I'll just ask, and not even ask and say. Then you guys had said 170 to 180. I was actually checking some of my previous runs while you guys were chatting there. And when I say I feel like I'm doing some things that are mostly right, and I feel like I have a lot. Without going to a clinic and we're showing video and saying analyze it. I mean, I'm coming off of 10 to 16 milers with an average steps per minute of 166. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel that I'm that far off from where I should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, never change anything before a race.
Right. You're a little close now.
Yeah.
Just a bit. I'll download the metronome and just use that. That'll be my entire playlist is the metronome for Chicago.
Well, you know that there's a metronome on your watch.
Oh, is that?
Sure.
Yeah, the Garmin's put a metronome in the watch now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Even on the 920 that I have?
I believe so. I used to have a 920. I believe there's a metronome in there. Look under app settings, and there should be a metronome.
Learn Learn something new every day.
There you go.
I have to get Vinny to buy me a new one since he does mine.
With all the billions he's making, right?
That's right.
Right, not.
He's about to be a superstar. Come on.
You know, I think that it's for him. It's not about being a superstar. That's the thing, and for him. It's about freaking helping people. We just came off the most fantastic NSNG meetup that this wonderful be there, and oh my God, the stories that people were telling of how it had changed their lives and everything.
Yeah.
I really hope that he understands how much good he's doing.
Well, it's got to be humbling. It really does. I mean, yeah.
He doesn't really believe it though. You know, it's like, I didn't do it. I'm like, well, yeah, that's true. They did the work. They made the changes in their life, but you made it. You gave them the information. Right.
You started them down the right path, and you gave them a place where they felt semi-safe. Not so much anymore, but they felt semi-safe to express their fears and questions.
Semi-safe. What do you mean by not anymore by that?
Well,
Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That group's got out of control, to be honest. But
yeah, I don't go on it very much, but
yeah.
But you know, that's not Vinny's.
Yeah, I know, and I tell people that all the time when they say, "Oh, I looked in there and God, they're mean." I said, "Yeah, that's not Vinny though," and he'll tell you.
It's nothing to do with Vinny. The thing about the best way to ask him questions is to tweet at him.
Yeah.
Because
and I've done that, and I've done that myself. So
yeah, he answers every single tweet
every morning. You can tell when Vinny's woke up,
and at night before he goes to bed, he sits out on the porch.
Yeah,
and he lights up all these hurricane lanterns because he feels like he's camping. And, so and he answers his tweets.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. They all come like in a big mass. You know, just one after another.
Yeah.
So Vinny's awake.
Yeah, but he does it religiously.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, good for him. I mean, I think that helps, and it gives people, it makes people feel that someone's listening to them. You know.
Yeah.
And that's what I remember when I first heard him, and actually, you know, I reached out to him early. I mean, early on, I was on a couple of shows.
Like the adopter, yeah, for sure.
You know, and he actually, because for so long I've been telling people this stuff and that this didn't feel right and I was wrong and something's wrong here, and he was the first person that listened and said, yeah, because it's this. I was like, and it was like, you know, yeah, it was kind of like, you know, you hear the you know, the choir of angels singing. It's like, oh, of course that's what it is.
Yeah.
So, but that's what makes you want to share it when you first hear it, you know, and that's when, you know, you kind of put some people off by that, but but I don't care.
The people that mind don't matter, and the people that matter don't matter.
Exactly. Yeah. What's the line? The
day.
Yeah, one of my favorite lines in a song. It's an old Irish song called Caledonia. Is you lose the friends you need lose, and you find others on the way. Yeah, it's one of the best lines ever.
So true, isn't it? Though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
So
it's been
I have no memorable quotes to interject here, so we'll just farm. We'll find one and drop it in later.
Okay. We'll cut it in like Photoshop it.
Yeah, well, let us know how you do with all your great endeavors there.
Oh,
I will. I might. Who knows? If you don't hear from me, it's because I died.
Yeah.
You know, I would say I would tweet it, but I don't think I've tweeted in 4 years, so that probably
he doesn't tweet. I'm the one that's tweeting.
Twitter is a weird thing, is it not?
Yeah, it is, and you know, I tend to unfollow a lot of people as soon as they retweet certain people, they're gone.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. With me at least.
Yeah, no, that's funny. Yeah. Oh Lordy, it's a strange old world we live in, is it not?
Yes, it is. It is. So, we thank you for coming on, Serena.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure
taking the time, and I have to say, I lost a bet. That before the show I said, I'm betting you that Vinny sticks his nose into this at some point.
Oh, he went to the gym.
You said that, Rob. You said he's working out.
I said he's going to be out training.
He's going to be working out somewhere.
Yeah, he is.
All right.
religious about it. He is religious about it. Which is,
Good.
You know how he gets away with what he gets away with.
Mm-hmm. Well, we look forward to the documentary and hearing more. So I guess it's getting done. So it's great. I can't wait.
His goal is to have it finished by the end of the year and
Nice.
starting distribution early next year.
Great.
We're working on the post-production now. It's being edited and color corrected and put together. We got a lot of incredible footage. The interviews were just gobsmacking.
Just a few that we've been able to see, even with the trailer. The look of it is really good. I really like the look of it.
Peter Pardini, the director, he's a very talented young man. He did what was that, Chicago, the documentary about Chicago,
which was great. I loved it. Yeah,
and he's also just done a film called Rolling Thunder, which I think you can find on Instagram and Vimeo and things. And Rolling Thunder is a full feature movie that was shot in one day.
Wow. Okay.
And it's all improv. And it also features the band Chicago.
Oh, of course it does.
Which was really funny. And Vinny and I had small parts in it, so we're in it too.
Oh, okay. Now we got to look for it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, actually. But he's a very talented guy.
Yeah, I like I said, I like the whole look of it. Even the trailer where Vinny's talking, just that I don't know how they do it, but it's the look of that was kind of cool looking to me.
Yeah.
Kind of vintage.
Once again, John, you didn't listen to Vinny's last couple shows. I can tell you exactly how they did it.
Oh, see? Well,
yeah.
I work during the day, Rob.
I do too, but I got to listen to something on my runs, John.
Yeah, all those long runs he's going.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a lot of running.
Yeah, he runs a lot. He runs a lot.
Yeah.
But that whole method is more about accumulation than it is about like one really long run with a bunch of smaller ones. So
well, I mean, it's interesting. It'll be interesting, not going further than 16 miles in any run. I mean, I kind of like that.
Yeah, and before we even knew there was a method, that was kind of what I thought anyway. So it's kind of nice when like someone who's more qualified than me thinks that. But I was always like 16 to 18 miles.
You go in the week for your weekly runs.
So I'll talk about this plan in a second. So my previous plans, when I've done like an 18 long, you'd only get up to a 5 or an 8 during the week, right? Like a Wednesday, Thursday or such. Mm-hmm. This one is 6 days a week of running. Wednesdays are off. So I'll start on Thursday. Like Thursday will now in the peak, the dead of it, it'll be an 11 or a 12 mile run. Friday will Friday will be either 6 or 8 miles, depending on what's coming on the weekend. It'll either be 6, 10, 10, or it'll be like 8, 6, and then 16. Okay, so you're really in about a 3-day span. You're not going to go over necessarily a 26 mile cumulative. So they kind of stretch that out a little bit.
Hello.
And then
Hello.
You there? Can you hear me?
Did you lose this again?
There you are.
Okay.
Sorry. So I was saying is if you have
accumulation is the last thing I heard.
Yeah, so you won't really go over about a 26 mile accumulation like within a 3-day span. So if Friday is 6, Saturday's 10, 10. If Friday's 8, then you'll have 6, 16 on Sunday. Mm-hmm. But then Monday, like yesterday I did 16, today was 6. Tomorrow goes back to 11. So like Tuesday and Thursdays in the peak of it, you're doing 11 or 12 miles with only one day, a full day rest in between, and that's a tempo and a speed, interval type of workout. Wow. So you have two pretty hard days during the week, and then your easy is truly go really easy, back off your pace by a couple minutes a mile, and then your longs are just done at a long zone 2 pace.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that's very interesting. So what's your maximum mileage in your training program for a week?
I'd have to get it out, but I think I'm going to say around 50 maybe.
Yeah.
It's
that's about the
much
max.
higher than that. Yeah.
Interesting.
It seems to work, and I've used it for a couple other clients as well, kind of modified it a little bit, and it seems to be working for them too. So,
yeah, I've heard this theory, battered around, and actually more than battered around, I mean, really sworn by for years of, I'm never going over 16 miles for a marathon training. That's not necessary. And all the rest of it. But psychologically, I find that quite scary, but I'd be interested to hear how it goes,
Yeah.
Because it fascinates me, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the theory is that the longer runs batter you, so, and I know, just like I said, I believe this myself just because I was a bigger guy, and I knew if I went out for an 18-mile training run, I wasn't running again for 3 days. So I was losing 3 days of training just because I had to do an 18-mile training run, where I could have done a 10, a 12, and a 6 and did it.
Yeah.
Fine,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly, it's certainly interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll let you know.
But I need more rest days than 1 day a week.
Yeah.
Sure. I know, but I do. I mean, and as I get older, I've noticed that.
Well, Rob is 20 years younger than me, so.
Yeah.
Whisker.
Yeah, that's
a whisker, John.
Yeah, that makes a difference. We'll see where he is when he's my age, 55. So.
Dead.
Well, I'll be 75. So.
I guess he'll be fine.
All right.
All right, darlings. Well, thanks for having me.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Anytime. And I hope I've made some sense to someone somewhere down the line.
Yeah. As long as we reach one, that's all that matters,
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Take care. I want to talk to you soon.
All
Lots of
right.
love. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
We're still on, right?
Yes, sir.
So that was a good conversation. So I don't think there's anything to add after that, right?
Nope.
Yeah. So we'll end this at this point. So this will be episode 159 for next week. And then they don't know this, but we're going to be recording another one.
Yep.
All right.
Oh, no, mine, I just clicked the close on the one, and I'm going, my little wheel gigger's spinning, and I'll save it. You save yours, and then we'll open new tracks and go from there.
All right. On to the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Endurance for Everyone podcast. If you have comments or questions for the show, send an email to teamE4E at enduranceforeveryone.com. And remember, swim calm, bike strong, and run steady.
Ready to start your journey? Whether it's your first workout or you are a seasoned athlete, Endurance for Everyone Coaching wants to work with you. Our coaching team has worked with athletes from beginners to USAT national qualifiers and are comprised of experienced runners, cyclists, and triathletes who have a passion for healthy living and have been where you are. We offer comprehensive coaching programs from weekly support to basic consultation, all designed to help you achieve your goals. If you want to take your performance to the next level, look no further than Endurance for Everyone Coaching. Go to www.teamE4E.com and click on the coaching link or send an email to teamE4E@enduranceforeveryone.com. And let's get started.